I've just got to go ahead. Welcome to Space Door Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Tonight in the house, we've got a very special event for you. We're launching Accessing Space, a new program on Space Door Live, which is going to be all about exploring inclusion in the space sector. We're going to try and showcase, celebrate the contributions, stories, and achievements of iconic people across many different ethnicities, backgrounds, and minority groups within the space sector. And we're kicking it off tonight with a very special one. It's going to be called How Black Lives Have Impacted Space Exploration. And it's going to be all about finding how we can collectively use space to empower, embolden, and inspire people from diverse backgrounds in space. So on our guest panel tonight, we have some very iconic people who I have already been inspired by speaking to offline. And I'm sure if you guys tune in tonight for the next hour or so, we're going to be having some wonderful conversations with Emmanuel, Sharon, Justin, and Lucy. So Sharon McDougle, hi there, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. So Sharon is a safety professional and former Space Shuttle CEE crew chief, and she's actually a modern day hidden figure. Most people know that Dr. Mae Jemison was the first African-American to travel into space, but not many people know that Sharon was actually the first African-American who suited her up. So a very warm welcome to you. It's an honor to have you on Space Door Live.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And Mae was the first African-American woman to travel in space.
Sorry, yeah, African-American woman, sorry. And we've got Justin McNeill. Hey, Justin.
Hello.
Justin is a senior project leader at the Aerospace Corporation. He currently leads numerous technical projects supporting NASA and JPL. And previously, he's supported various planetary missions, including Galileo, Mars Observer, and Mars Pathfinder. It's an honor to have you, Justin. How are you doing?
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you, and I'm doing well. And I really look forward to sharing some of my history to help others, especially you. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure everyone listening is raring to find out all of your experiences and stories. We've got Lucy Njuguna, who's a community outreach organizer based in Reading, and she has 12 years experience in the third sector. Her career has been driven by diversity and inclusion work at a community level, and she's the only person on the panel tonight who's not directly linked in the space sector. So it'll be really good to kind of get your views on things as well, Lucy. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's it's weird. I'm around all these amazing Black people, and I'm just excited to find out more about them. And feel so honored. I'm grateful to be here. I just want to thank all of you for being here as well. Thank you.
Awesome. It's an honor to have you. I'll let everyone know that we were struggling to get Lucy online, and she only joined about 1 minute before we went live. So I'm so glad she made it just in time. And last but not the least, we have Emmanuell Murray, who is an avionics systems engineer at Boeing, and he is a seasoned rocket scientist with over 20 years of experience in the space industry. It's an honor to have you, Emmanuel. How are you doing?
Doing great, and very happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So, as I said, tonight is the first episode of Accessing Space, which is all about exploring inclusion in the space sector. Now, if you're joining us on YouTube Live, or if you're part of the Zoom webinar, remember you can ask questions to the panel throughout the talk if you have any questions about their past experiences, about what they're currently doing, or anything they talk about during the event. Feel free to drop a question in the comments below or via the Q&A on Zoom, and I'm sure they'll be happy to have a discussion on it. Awesome. So let's get started with our panel event tonight. And the first things I think the audience will want to know about is a little bit more about how did you guys get interested in space? Was it during childhood? Was it after you did education, or was it kind of you just ended up unknowingly in the space industry? Justin, how was your experience? How did you get interested in space?
Thank you, Ash, for that question. I think I mentioned to you when we first chatted before this that my first understanding of space was when I was just 3 years old. I was out actually playing with some friends on my tricycle. And my mother called out from the house, and she said, come on in, they're landing on the moon. And so a 3-year-old, I go and follow my mother's call, her request, and I go in and I look at the television, and something's happening, and I just say, okay, there are people on the moon now. It turns out that I ended up in the space industry working for JPL as a result of my interest in image processing and digital signal processing. I interviewed with JPL in grad school and found out that, of all the institutions and companies I interviewed with, that it was probably going to be the most engaging and most interesting place to work for. And ended up joining their software team in the development of the subsystem that transforms the telemetry coming down from the JPL instruments into science products for the scientists to then use for their studies. And so it was a nice landing, I should say, for my undergraduate and graduate work in electrical engineering. So that's how.
Were you certain you were going to go into the space industry kind of going through school after coming across the moon landing when you were 3?
No, I did know though that, or I was, I guess, led into engineering studies through an outreach program. RCA, Radio Corporation of America, since purchased by any number of other people, but RCA Missile and Surface Radar Division in Morristown, New Jersey, an adjacent town to where I grew up, had an outreach program for our juniors and seniors in our high school for people who are interested in science and engineering. And so, because I was, I had my strong suits were in math and science in high school, I ended up being involved with that program and learned about engineering. No one else in my family was in engineering or science. We were, either educators or people in medicine. So it was new. It was new to me, and I ended up going into engineering, which led me there to JPL.
That's great. I think Emmanuel also has an engineering background. How did you get involved in the space industry, Emmanuel?
Hi. So for me, it was, I would have to say it started when I was in 3rd grade. One of our little projects was to write about a planet. And when looking at what planet I wanted to choose, I think I had heard at some point that that my astrological sign, which is Virgo, happens to be associated with the planet Mercury. So I just thought that was really cool that I could be associated with a planet that's in space, and that was just an amazing thought to me. And I think I spent the rest of that year telling everyone that I was from Mercury. So that was sort of my first introduction to space, and from there I just wanted to find out more, just wanted to learn more about stars and planets, and for a while I wanted to be an astronaut, but then I got on my first roller coaster and decided maybe an astronaut wasn't the best career choice for me because it wasn't really fun for me. So I did at the same time start getting into Legos, and I loved building Legos, especially space Legos. So I have one of my first creations here with me. And I that kind of pushed me towards the engineering side of space, because I still wanted to be involved in the space industry, but I chose an engineering path for me, and I've never looked back since.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what about you, Sharon? Because I know your story is slightly different to those of Justin and Emmanuel. How did you end up in the space sector or interested in space?
Well, there was no beautiful moment where I was lying on a grassy knoll looking up at the sky and at the stars. None of that. I was in the Air Force for 7.5 years, and I worked with the pressure suits, the same suits the astronauts wear for launch and entry. And so that kind of kicked me off into that career, because where else was I going to work with those kind of skills, right? But at NASA, working on pressure suits. So after I got out the Air Force, a friend of mine was already out here in Houston. I was stationed out in California at Beale Air Force Base. And I got out, and I was out about 6 months, and he called and informed me of an opportunity that had opened immediately. And so I called and interviewed over the phone, and they said, come on out whenever you're ready. And I worked there for 22 years before the space shuttle program ended.
Wow, that's great. It's amazing to hear all your stories on how you, because it's so different. I mean, Sharon, you didn't, throughout school, you probably didn't even think about you were going to work in the space industry. And
in the Air Force either. I had no clue I would be working with the space industry.
Exactly, yeah. And it's great to hear that you don't need to have thought about it when you're young to actually end up there. What about you, Lucy? What are your thoughts on the space sector? And maybe do you want to share a little bit of an experience on what your views are, or what your experiences have been with the space industry so far?
Well, unfortunately, like everybody else here, I have very little space history. Most of my space interest comes from knowing Steve and him introduced me to everything. But I have been doing outreach work and working in inclusion and diversity work for a long time. I've been doing youth work since I was 17, and that was because of somebody who mentored me and pushed me to do better, other than making trouble for everybody. And I ended up going to uni. Didn't work out the first time, but it did the second time. And I got through, and I've just been growing in my career ever since. And that's because of outreach work, and I think what Steve is trying to do, combine space with outreach work, is just amazing. And I just want to sort of be involved in that and sort of support him as much as I can. So yeah, that's the most of connection I have with space. I don't have a lot of background from space, unfortunately.
Well, that's okay, because another thing accessing space is really about is raising awareness of STEM and STEAM, as it's becoming now, with science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. How do you think, well, what has your experience been with your work in STEM or STEAM? You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So for me personally, I have worked with young people who've wanted to sort of take part in the STEM world. So that has also been something that I think what Steve is doing is really important. Sorry, just thought I should mention that as well.
No, that's great. It just occurred to me that I should mention that people who do not know Steven Ringer, he's the CEO and founder of Space Store, and he has been pushing this initiative of forming what is now Accessing Space for a very long time, and it's so close to our hearts, because at Space Store we truly believe that space is for everyone. Now, whether that's interest in space or working in the space industry, it is for everyone, and we really want to try and promote that. And another thing I want to add is I haven't said it so far, but it's truly an honor to be speaking to you guys over here, because you guys have done so much outreach work, which we're going to be talking about in a minute. But it's an honor to be sharing this virtual stage with you guys. especially because I'm really new in the space industry, less than 2 years. So to be able to speak to people who have been here 10, 15, 20 years, and learn from your experiences, learn from what you guys think about outreach, about the space sector and where it's heading, it's truly an honor. Now, let's talk a bit more about outreach, because I know our previous space talks have been very technical, or some of them have been very technical. We've talked about exoplanets, we've talked about traveling to Baikonur, Baikonur Cosmodrome, but this one's slightly different, and we're going to talk about outreach. So Justin, what are your thoughts on outreach, and kind of how have you been involved in outreach? I know you mentioned your experience when you were growing up with, remind me, was it the radio?
RCA, yeah.
RCA.
Our RCA's acronym is Radio Corporation of America. You know, a big conglomerate that was, you know, providing televisions and all sorts of electronics to the American public for about a century. But their defense sector, one of their plants was located right where I grew up. But you know, I must say that for me, one thing that's been important is basically just being a good example to others, and just talking a little bit about what I do to people who are younger than me. You know, in my own family, my own extended family, as I mentioned before, there hasn't been a lot of focus on math and science and engineering. We've had a lot of focus on medicine, a lot of focus on law, a lot of focus on education by the different professions that we've had, but not so much in the other ways. So I simply haven't been doing a lot of outreach directly, but I've been trying to make sure that the youth that I have come in contact with, either through tutoring or outreach that Aerospace, the Aerospace Corporation, has done at our high schools, various high schools in Southern California. I've been doing it that way. As a matter of fact, John Muir High School in Pasadena, I was involved with outreach through that high school, and very much value that. I think it's of importance, especially because, you know, that's how I got involved. If I had not had individuals coming to Willingboro High School, where I went to high school in New Jersey, I probably would have been an architect or an attorney and not an engineer. So it's important to get the message out that it is a valid career path, and a career path where African Americans can excel. And so, you know, we just have to, you know, do our best to get the message out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, especially because you're so closely connected to the outreach side. It significantly impacted your career choices, which is great to hear.
Yes.
Sharon, what are your thoughts on outreach in terms of STEM, especially, and engineering and space? What do you think?
Well, after the newness of seeing the space shuttle launches wore off, the outreach part became the most fun and endearing part of my job. Going out to the schools and going to community events, having the suit with me, explaining to the children about it up close and personal. They can touch it, feel it, try on a piece here and there, and just seeing their little eyes light up. And people didn't even know that a suit technician was a job. You know, I had never heard of it until I was there either. I mean, I know I did it in the Air Force, but knowing that you could actually have a career suiting up the crew members for launch and strapping them into the shuttle and that whole side of the house, you don't think about that as a job. All people think about is astronaut, scientist, engineer when they think about NASA. There are so many more behind the scene jobs that people have no idea exist. So you have to, and that's how you let people know, by going out into the community and letting them know about it. And now we have the Google and the internet and everything. So it's at everybody's fingertips. They can find out all this information now. But it's so wonderful to have somebody do it in person, come to a classroom and tell the children, and then they can see somebody that looks like them actually doing the job.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned going out to the community and showing them what happens, what is possible. And we've got Lucy in the house, who's actually a community outreach organizer. So she does exactly that. Lucy, how important do you think outreach is becoming now? Even though, of course, as Sharon mentioned, we have Google, we have the internet. Students you can log into YouTube and watch videos on literally anything and everything. Even then, why do you think outreach is still important? And how is your experience in outreach, especially in engineering and STEM? What have you noticed through your experiences?
One of the things I think that makes face-to-face outreach more powerful than virtual outreach, I think, is that relatable aspect of it. Is that person feelings from that experience and remembering that moment and taking that moment and carrying that moment with them through their life, and that moment actually dropping little paths in their brains to think, oh, I don't want to go this way, I want to go that way. I think those little moments are hard to get virtually or just getting information, and I think that part is so virtual because I'm one like Sharon, Google it, it's out there, it's at your fingertips, get to it. But at the same time, I think the work we do face to face allows people to see us and understand us and get to know us as workers, as well as other people that like some of the major challenges I faced as a Black organizer is working with white-led spaces and nuances that come with that. But overcoming that over the past year and we've seen over the past 6 months has been really, really, really amazing. So all of that sort of push that we're getting now for that type of work, it's important. And we can see that when people have the time to pause and think, what can we do? Can we do more? There is more to do. There is always more to do. So I think that is the power of doing the outreach face to face. You find out more, you get a different perspective, you meet different people and inspire different people. So I truly believe that. Yeah.
That's great. It is a little bit ironic because we're hosting a virtual event right now, but hopefully as the approval of these vaccines comes in, we can quickly go back to doing face-to-face events. And as you said, the power of those is truly remarkable. Even in my childhood, I remember seeing like science fairs where they used to come in and they used to get those like a chemistry set, and you used to have bubbles coming out. I still remember that, and it does have an impact on you as to what you think is interesting. So yeah, that's great. What about you, Emmanuel? How do you think outreach impacted your decisions growing up and choosing careers?
Well, so one of the things that I remember was I had a close a family member that gave me a lot of information when I was thinking about going towards the engineering path. Gave me different information about space technology, space vehicles, things like that, and seeing that coming from someone that I knew and respected, and she was a family member, definitely made it feel even more accessible to me. That seeing someone that looked like me, who was also interested in space and space technology, that made it more like, okay, yeah, this is something that it's not unheard of that somebody like me would be doing this. So that's always important. And one thing that I recall after working, so I worked for JPL for a few years during grad school, and one of the things that we did was FIRST Robotics. So we mentored for FIRST Robotics, which is if you don't know what it is, it's a robotics competition where you are given a task to build a robot that's supposed to do something, and you and then you enter them all in a competition together. And it felt like that was an opportunity for me to sort of get others interested in technology, and get others interested in perhaps becoming an engineer in space, or in mechanical or something like that. So I ended up being a mentor for that 1 year at I believe it was La Cañada High School in Pasadena. It was fun. It was really interesting. It was good to see students getting interested in technology, and I think programs like that really help. It's always a question of funding is, I think, the main issue, but finding ways to get those kind of programs out to more communities is I think something that's essential to the whole idea of outreach.
Yeah, that's great. Lucy, just going back to your, I just connected some points. And how important do you think outreach is becoming in inspiring young people?
I think it's necessary right now, because what we're finding is, even with them having access to information, some of it is misinformation. And unless they have a trusted adult, somebody who knows and cares about them and will try to give them the best advice and not mislead them, it's necessary. And that's hard to find on the internet. That's hard to say that can be done on the internet. That needs to be people in the community. It needs to be the gatekeepers of the community doing that work. And these people are already in these communities. And for us as organization, I think we need to tap into that. Tap into the people that are already doing the work and add space to that. So bring space to the communities, be adaptable and being able to pop up somewhere at the park because the kids are out on the summer days playing. And then they can then start talking and be like, oh my God, what's going on over there? And it's going to be like, oh, okay, then this is space. What is space? Even if they're not interested in it, they will be curious enough to ask questions, will then push their interest. And I think it's important that we do the outreach work as best and as genuine as possible. I wouldn't want space, or the way you do space, to change. I would want you to try to find a way to meet the needs of the community with the needs of the space world, to find a middle ground or overlap where we can all exist in a really genuine and authentic way. Because I think sometimes when we try to go out into communities, we try so hard to be like them or do what they're doing, rather than bring what we're already doing to them and to show them that it can also be done another way. Like what Sharon said, I didn't know that you can do a job like hers until I heard about her, and I looked into her and I was like, oh my God, it's a real job. Oh my God, and it's an amazing job. And oh my God, she's this amazing person, 20 years. And I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, I didn't know about this. So I think it's really important that we're exposed to that world, because for me, this is an exposure. I'm being exposed to this world right now, live. And it's amazing. And I'm trying to take it all in at the same time and still be professional, but it's hard. So I think it's really important. I think these things happening, these discussions happening, especially virtually, because this wouldn't be able to happen in person. So it's an amazing thing to be able to do it virtually. So that's another point. So you find the bonus points in whatever method works. Me and Steve was having the conversation the other day where he spoke about how he would go to his friend's house to eat jollof rice, and every time it would be different. And he asked why, and they said, well, we don't have a recipe, we make it different every time. And I like to think of outreach work like that. It's a different recipe, you get a different outcome every time, but you're always working with different kinds of people. So I think that's the best type of approach to take to it.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. And as you talk about the exposure and being genuine and not trying to oversell it as, you have to be good at maths or be good at this or be good at that. It's just really trying to understand each and every community, especially as we're talking about minority ethnic groups, understanding how they are engaged, and then seeing, okay, what does the space industry do with what we can engage them with? So that's great. And to any young people who are listening in live right now, or they might be watching this on YouTube in the future, It would be awesome if you guys could share your experiences of your career. It might be before your career started or during your career, which you think any young people listening to this will be inspired from. Justin, do you have an experience that you'd like to share?
Yeah, and before I do that, I think one thing that we want to make sure all youth know, not and of course all people, all adults know too, is that if you set your mind to something and set a goal or objective for your career or for yourself, just whatever it is, if you've got that drive and that vision, you can do it. And I was thinking about the different industrialists in the past, and now SpaceX and Musk. You see individuals who are so driven and can actually inspire people to be behind them and get behind them with the resources that they need. That that's really part of it. Is are you driven, and really to look in a computer system with software to actually understand an image and help people do whatever they needed to do with that. That's what got me excited in undergraduate school. So I went to grad school to learn about image processing and ended up at JPL. So that was part of the drive. The other thing is, and I think I'll just be as brief as possible, but my family had an expectation that was kind of a default about, well, yeah, you're going to go to undergraduate school, yeah, you may get your master's degree. It's kind of like default because that's what my sister did, that's what my brother did, that's what my parents did. But not everyone has that, and it's important for us who may have come back from those backgrounds to be able to help those who may not have the same family background, not the same educational background, to know that they too can do it, and just help them by telling our stories. So I apologize if I didn't actually answer your question directly, but those are the things I did want to say.
No, that's great. That's great. It is really important, especially for young people who, as you said, might not have the older siblings or parents who have already gone and followed that career path. Especially for myself, I was the first person in my immediate family to do a degree, so it was a really big achievement. And thankfully, I had parents who were supportive of it, and it was great. And we know that there are families out there who and young people out there who might not always get that support, but that's why we have this community to show that it is possible, and you can go out there and follow your dreams and be inspired. So that's great. Sharon, by the way, I love your background, and I know it's a real background, it's not a Zoom.
It's a real background. I do a lot of talks from home, so.
Awesome. No, it looks great. It looks great. What about you, Sharon? What kind of experiences have you had over your 22-year career at NASA that you might want to share with young people listening in?
I had the best job ever. I did in the Air Force, and and I worked for United Space Alliance. We were the contractor, space shuttle contractor for NASA.
Okay.
It's just so many great parts. In the Air Force, even that's a great route to go to be trained in a specific career field, which is what I did. I actually joined the Air Force for them to pay for my schooling. But of course, I had this amazing job, and I was traveling and just having a good time, and never went to college. So to piggyback on what Justin was talking about, I was doing an amen when he said that is school is not for everybody. Everyone don't have the funding to go to school. And I was one of those people. And so after I got trained in the Air Force, like I said, I got the opportunity to work with United Space Alliance with the space program. And it's because it's from good old grit and determination. When I got in the Air Force, I worked hard, I was punctual, all those good qualities you need to have. And I stood out. not because I was the only Black woman, but because I was good at what I did. And it was noticed. So after that, that's why the gentleman that called me from Houston, if I hadn't been an excellent worker when he was working with me in the Air Force, he probably would have never thought to call me. But I stood out to him enough for him to call me and interview over the phone and get the position. And then I came out here and I started at the very bottom. So don't feel like you can't be successful just because you don't have a college degree, because I'm definitely living proof of that. I had a great career without a degree. And I don't put down getting, if you can, and that's what you want to do, please do. But I didn't have that opportunity as a child. So thank God for another outreach program, the recruiters coming to the high school. The Air Force recruiter came to the high school, and I hadn't even thought about that. And so that led me, that route was going into the military, which was a great opportunity. Like I said, the same suits that the astronauts wear, they got that from the Air Force. It wasn't the other way around. A lot of people think the Air Force got the suits from NASA. No, it's the other way around. They learned about the pressure suits from us. So I did that for 7.5 years, training and suiting them up, altitude chamber, hyperbaric chamber, all of that work prepared me for when that opportunity came along. So preparation. There's no luck. You have to be prepared when that door is ready to open. So work hard, be punctual. Punctuality is a huge pet peeve of mine. And as you guys know, if you read anything, I started at the bottom as a technician. I became a crew chief, and then I became the manager of that department. And when I became a manager, I made sure I brought folks in because anybody's trainable. They didn't have to have worked on a spacesuit before. I mean, where were you going to get that experience to work on a spacesuit before you came to work in my department? So if they had basic skills, can turn a screwdriver, we can train them on how to work on the suits. And that's what I did. I made sure I brought in people, good people, did not have to be ex-Air Force, and get them trained. So that's something else the children should know. You know, be the best at whatever you decide to do.
Yeah, that's great. As you said, anything is possible, and listening to you, even I'm learning so much. So thank you for that. What about you, Emmanuel? How have your experiences been? And maybe if you touch upon like, how do we've Justin, Sharon, and Lucy have spoken about like finding ways to inspire, whether that's through outreach, or these kind of programs. What have your experiences been, and how do you think we provide more practical ways to find young people's vision and their drive?
Well, so I guess my experience has mostly been in a couple areas. One, like I said, I worked at JPL for a little while, and then later on ended up working at a startup company, and then at Boeing. And in each one of those, at least in a few of those, or a couple of those cases at least, I was one of the few African American people, at the company, or working in my area, at least not at the entire company, but working in my area. And it's ultimately that's an important thing to show to others, that it's possible, that it's really ultimately a good career path, and an accessible career path for African Americans and for other people of color to follow, and so just getting that word out, showing people, hey, we're here. This is an option for you too. I think that's an important thing to sort of pay forward the success that we've had to others.
Definitely. And that kind of leads me on to a question for Lucy, actually, is what advice do you have for the space industry to better support outreach? And like, you work directly with these young people we're talking about. What do they need?
Sorry, Was that question about young people or the space industry? Or young people?
It's about what do young people need from the space industry?
I think they have the right to access support, and for organizations to have an awareness of the kind of support they give the young people. Just being aware of, how training policies and practices and historically that hasn't always been up to par, and maybe do better at making decisions at strategic level. So how we're making decisions from the top down and how that will affect them, or how that will affect policies and practices with the young people. But I think once your organization has policies and practice that are for the communities they're working for, I think the work will show itself. The work you deliver, the quality of work you deliver will be proof of the policies and the practices of those organizations. So I think it's just keep being positive, keep being passionate, keep enthusiastic, and just keep bringing space to the communities. And those that really want to be in the space world and really want to learn, really want to grow and develop that, they will tap into the support that's already there that you're offering them. And I think what everybody has said today is really important, because even for me, I started doing youth work when I was 17. Nobody ever pushed me, and I didn't know I was even gonna go study. And I only want to study because I wanted to grow as a practitioner, and I wanted to gain more knowledge as a practitioner, to go and do better work, and to also be able to do my own thing one point in my life, which is now I'm starting my own charity, which I never thought would ever happen. But here I am, actually being an adult and doing something productive for the community. So I just think I just want to support any type of outreach work that the Space Store wants to do, especially in our local community, because I think it's powerful. There's kids out there that want to know more. Unfortunately, they don't have the access. Unfortunately, they don't have the people around them pushing them to be better and do better. And, that's what I do as a community organizer, as a youth worker. That's what we're here for. We stand in for those that don't have. So, yeah, I think it's just, if you are a young person listening, I mean, I know for sure I'm willing to mentor all of you if I could, but on top of that, reach out. The Space Store, I know Steve is like trying to engage the young people and the young community. So yeah, reach out to us, come out and see us. There's a place you could come in Didcot. There's the social media pages. We're here. And that's all I really can say about that.
Yeah, that's great. It's truly inspiring to hear from you that you're actually starting your own charity. What kind of work will you be doing?
So it will be mentoring young Black people in Reading, and that is because working as a Black practitioner, one thing I have noticed in Reading is young Black people don't have a lot of outreach, actually don't have any outreach work going on. While I was growing up, there were so many different type of projects going on and so many things I can tap into if I wanted to. So I felt it was only right that I shared that, because without that, a lot of us, there's so many of us that would have been lost. So I just want to return the favor and carry on passing that on. Yeah, that's about it. I just want to help the Black.
Why do you think that outreach has been lost over the years?
Funding, like I'm pretty sure Justin said, I can't remember. Somebody said something about funding, but yeah, historically we know that grassroots community project lack the necessary funding to thrive and create long-term outcomes for both communities and themselves. Unfortunately, that is the truth of it. But I feel that, like I said, the last 6 months have showed me a way to tap into it and find ways to support our communities. So rather than paying attention to the lack of funding we're getting, is trying to find better ways to get funding and find sustainable funding for the long term.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in here and just say a word about corporate responsibility. And I know that the Aerospace Corporation, has publicly come out, especially in light of things that have happened in the United States, that the corporation has made a stance about diversity and inclusion. But I think that's incumbent upon all of the corporate corporations worldwide is to actually, think about the youth and thinking about, where are the human resources going to come for the future? And I do know that some of the messaging that I was hearing from the institutions that I took opportunities from in terms of my internships of the summer while I was in undergraduate school, and then even those who underwrote my graduate education, Westinghouse R&D, that they understood, I guess, the value of inclusion of people of color, but also investing in youth and building the next generation of engineers and scientists and technicians. So the corporate world has a responsibility to invest in its youth, the people in its nation and its surrounding communities, so that they do have a diverse and strong human resource to go and do the next major things, in space, medicine, all fields. So that's one part of it.
Yeah, I mean, we all spoke about what young people can do and how we can inspire young people. But maybe a question for Sharon and Emmanuel is, how do we now really impact the corporate world into, okay, thinking about these things? And as Lucy pointed out, funding has become a bigger issue. When Lucy was younger, there was loads of outreach programs, and over the years they have slowly declined. So being being in the space industry for so long, Sharon, how do you think we can influence the corporate world into promoting this?
You'll just have to be, to me, the straight up approach is the best approach. You go to whoever you need to go to in the HR or whatever department it is, and you just put it out. You lay it out and let them know. We have to let our kids know what's going on. We have to make sure they're aware of all these opportunities. And the only way we can do that is being allowed to go out and promote it. So they have to have money set aside for you to go out and talk to the kids and take the equipment, give you the time to do it. Even though I did many community service outreach programs after hours, they still did allow me to even travel sometimes to go and talk to children and let them know about what the opportunities are out there. But they have to give people a chance too. They have to be able to take a chance on somebody that doesn't have a degree or never worked, as I mentioned before, in this industry. You need to give them a chance to work there to get the experience, take a chance on people. They may not fit the mold that you're looking for, but if you talk to them during an interview or whatever and get a feel for them, which is what I did, I made sure once I became manager, I brought in other people of color into my department because I was the only Black woman, but we had a couple other Black men. But other than that, it was pretty much just white. So I did my part, but like I said, you have to, once you get to a level where you have the power to go and talk to upper management and let them know. That's what you need to do. You need to do your part. You need to take it to them, not wait for the next person to do it. Once you got there, you're comfortable and not thinking about bringing anybody else in. You need to make sure you bring other people on. And then as far as community outreach, like I said, they have to put the funding in. They have to give you the opportunity to go out and do it.
Yeah, no, I think these conversations we're having and everything you just said is so important, not only inspiring young people, but also inspiring the decision makers and the people who have that pot of money to understand the importance of inspiring younger people. What about you, Emmanuel? What do you think? What would you do if faced pushback on this topic? If we were to go to the corporate world and there is pushback, what was your view on that?
Well, so I of course agree wholeheartedly with what Sharon just said. That trying to get to managers and trying to get them involved and trying to make sure that they understand that this should be a priority for them is important. And at least right now, given all that's occurred, and Justin picked up on this as well, it does seem like there's more of an opportunity to push that idea, and companies seem a lot more responsive right now to the idea of, okay, yeah, we're starting to understand that, yeah, that there are these gaps in racial equality, and that they can have a role in addressing some of that. I know I've seen there have been several discussions at Boeing and talks about these subjects recently, and right now, where that pushback might have been more likely before, it's and that's for various reasons. That pushback it seems like it's becoming more obvious that it's in companies' best interests to not push back on these ideas as much anymore. So at least right now is an important time to try to make a difference in this area.
Yeah, just going to add that hats off to all of the organizations and companies who are supporting these initiatives of outreach, because as these past hour of conversations I've had, it's truly brought to the surface how important inspiring the next generation within STEM and within space is important, especially Justin, how important it has been in your career.
Yeah, I was gonna say also that, another part of it, I think Sharon was communicating this as well, is that, some of this work is really fun.
It is.
That's a part of the inspiration too. So I remember my first international trip. Yeah, I think my first time going abroad was in support of a project with, I was working at JPL at the time. And, we were on an international project. And, my first trip was to Munich, Germany. And I just remember, wow, yeah, I'm going to work with, an international space project. And when I landed in München, at the airport, they say, what is your business here? And I said, well, a space project. And the guy looked at me and was like, oh, and then stamped my passport. And then I realized, I wonder how many African Americans or African people of African descent he sees with that response. Right. But it was fun. I ended up, having to drive on the Autobahn to get to Oberpfaffenhofen to have discussions with the science team. Then we flew from there to Berlin to talk with more of the ground system development team. And it was a 2 or 3 year project. And, it was great to, be involved internationally with scientists and engineers trying to do something to get to Mars. So, it can be really, really fun. It could be tedious too, a lot of hard work, but it could be fun. Yeah. So I just want to say that.
It definitely is fun, because especially at Space Door, we do so much outreach, and it's honestly the best part of our jobs is connecting with young people. Now we are closing towards the end of our panel discussion. I hope everyone who's tuned in has enjoyed it. One thing I really would like to end on is why do you guys think space is a good tool for doing outreach?
Anybody?
Lucy or Sharon, what do you think?
I think that it's something that we can all relate to. It's something that we all can have a small foundation understanding from a young age. You can be from 0 to 100 and still have an interest in space. There is no age limit to who has, the interest or monopoly on space. So I think it's a very diverse topic, because it's not just one thing. There's just so many layers and elements of it that, like Sharon said, there's so many different jobs you can do within space that there's no limitation, literally. So yeah, I just think that's the most powerful thing about it. It's extremely diverse within itself.
Yeah, it is. Space is literally for everyone. What do you think, Sharon? Yeah.
I totally agree. And being a little Black girl from Mississippi, I never thought I would be a part of the space program, and here I am. So it's for everybody. I mean, I've met so many different people, all different nationalities, and like Justin mentioned, they always kind of are taken aback when I tell them what I do. It's kind of like, what? Yeah, I do that. You can do it too. So it's for everybody, really. Please don't anybody feel like they're not worthy, because like I say, once again, all you should think about is astronauts, scientists, engineers, tons of jobs. They have people that have to fix their food. They have people that have to clean out the orbiters. I mean, it's so many jobs that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do with the space program. So please, if you have an opportunity, join.
That's great. Anything you want to add to that, Justin?
Well, I do want to say that sometimes when I'm looking out my window in the house or just outside and I see the moon, and I see the stars, I'm so appreciative of having had the opportunity to work with scientists and work with rocket scientists like Emmanuel and help accomplish a mission and really help with missions. So it's an I feel privileged, very privileged to be able to support NASA and support the missions that do the discovery, and I can relate to that. So that makes it exciting and worthwhile.
That's great. And Emmanuel, being a rocket scientist yourself, why do you think space is a good tool?
That term, rocket scientist. I think it's a good tool just because like you said, it's for everyone. We can all appreciate the stars, and we can all appreciate looking up at the sky and admiring the beauty of what's above us, and that phrase of shooting for the stars, like everyone knows it, and everybody understands that and understands what that means. It means shooting for your highest ideals, shooting for doing your best, and space itself has always, at least for me, brought that out. Just that idea of doing more, working harder, and I think that can be such a driving tool for a lot of people, of all nationalities and all cultures.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And it's true. It is literally for everybody, as everyone alluded to. We've had a couple of messages from YouTube saying thank you to everybody for their kind words and for all the insights you've given us about your careers and your experiences. A message from Denise Lyles. Thank you so much, Sharon. Thanks for the invite. Love you. You are all stars. So some kind words there on YouTube. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We have now unfortunately reached the end of such amazing conversations. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope everyone who tuned in on YouTube, thank you for spending your evenings or daytime if you're tuning in from a different part of the world with us. And a big thank you to all of our guests. Thank you, Justin McNeill. Thank you, Lucy Njuguna. Thank you, Sharon McDougal. And thank you, Emmanuell Murray. It's been a pleasure having you on Space Door Live. And it has been an awesome way to kick off our new Accessing Space program. Once again, our goal is to collectively use space to empower, embolden, and inspire people from diverse backgrounds in space. And I think you all have done an incredible job in helping us start that mission. So any final words you'd like to add?
Oh, thank you so much for hosting and all the hard work and trying to get it all together and everything, and just hosting. You're amazing, by the way. Thank you so much. Make me feel so much more comfortable.
Thank you, Lucy.
That's all right.
Yeah. Thank you, Laksh. I really appreciate your hosting us. And of course, thanks to the Space Store and Steve and all the folk there to make this happen. So keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Also for me, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I enjoyed it. And even though I haven't worked with the space program since 2012, I still push it like I'm still working out there. I'm still doing community outreach. I'm still, that's why I have this background up talking to kids at different schools throughout the year. So I'm still doing the work because I want our children to venture out and work in the space business.
That's great.
And yeah, for me too. Thank you so much for putting this on. It was really fun. It was great. And I look forward to more of these. Look forward to the entire series. So I'll be staying tuned as well.
Once again,
everyone else out there too.
Awesome. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you, Justin. Please do stay tuned via our social media channels. Click subscribe if you haven't already to support Space to Live and help us bring more of these initiatives to you and to your screens whilst a vaccine is around. And I'll leave you guys with a quote from Emmanuel is, we can all definitely be appreciative of the stars, and that's why space helps connect us all. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next Tuesday on the Roundup on Space Store Live, where space experts and astronomers Nick Howes and Terry Mosley bring you the latest and greatest of space news. That's going to be next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. So tune in for that. Until then, take care, stay safe, and I hope you guys have a great week ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.